So I hope now everyone has been able to join. Then welcome again, reintroducing myself, Daniel de Schryver. I'm the patient engagement and advocacy lead for Janssen, the pharmaceutical companies of Johnson & Johnson. And I have the pleasure to co-present with Tamas Bereczky what the private-public collaboration in EUPATI can bring for patient expertise. But I wanted first to also make you all feel comfortable that we, for those who are already dead by PowerPoint, will not have any PowerPoint to present. We are live, so this is not pre-recorded. You can type in questions in the Zoom or on the palatable website of the meeting, and we will try to follow up with you. So basically, very happy to talk about EUPATI, and I wanted to give a little bit of context because we're looking very much in these presentations here on what we can do to involve patients more in the clinical trials setting, clinical trials protocols, PROs, etc. But for us, or for me, at least, those are low-hanging fruit. That's the place where, of course, obviously, we already have been doing that for many years because it's important to enroll and to retain patients in clinical trials. But to reduce the view to only clinical trials, I think, is not a good thing to do. You need to look broader, and patients' input need to be connected to what the whole strategy is in the disease area. A clinical trial makes no sense if it is not connected to your target product profile. So patients need also to understand what are we trying to achieve with the clinical trials to be able to give good input. And I think to achieve that, you need a long-term engagement. And the long-term engagement is something that we have experience with for many years with the HIV representatives. The HIV community has created something which is called community advisory boards. And there will be a session on community advisory boards also, where, of course, it is not for the industry to come and ask patients, give us input on this or this particular part, but it is more the community at large that organizes the review of what the industry is doing in a certain field. And the review means what is your portfolio, what is your strategy, what are you looking at, what is target product profile, what are the clinical trials going to achieve, but also what is your go-to-market model. And I think historically what we have seen, for example, in HIV, the clinical aspect has always been important, but at one moment, because we were moving from a deadly disease to a chronic disease, the health economic aspects became more important. And I remember going with the European AIDS treatment group to the London School of Economics because it was important for the advocates to understand that it's not just about clinical trials and clinical data, it's going to be about what is the long-term cost for society. And so this move shows that the expertise that is requested from patient advocates becoming more and more broad, large, and with different aspects. You may be a very good clinician and know everything about PK, but we're not necessarily know about health economics and vice versa. You need a broad range of expertise. That is what also led us to collaborate in an IMI project a few years ago, which was then called EUPATI, the European Patient Academy for Therapeutic Innovation, with the aim as a collaboration again between authorities, public money, patient groups, and the industry to create a set of tools that would allow and an environment would allow to patients to become better experts. And again, not just on clinical trials, the broader aspect of drug development. And then EUPATI has been now working for a few years and has become a foundation, but I'm not going to go much more into details because I'd rather have Tamas explain exactly where it comes from, what it is, and what it can offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, and a warm welcome from my side as well. And indeed, not only have we been working together in EUPATI for many years now, but also before that, in the HIV community, I'm myself also an HIV patient, and that's how I got involved in patient advocacy and then patient education, peer education, which is very much at the core of EUPATI. And as Dania very rightly pointed out, there is this realization, or there was this realization in 2010, 2011 already, that meaningful and reasonable and also successful pharmaceutical development is not possible unless you work with patients on a different in a different framework and on a more equal level than what was usual before. However, there was also this realization that, of course, this type of work, especially when we speak about long-term engagement and planning patient engagement throughout the product life cycle and the development cycle, this requires expertise. So you cannot expect patients, even if they are patient experts, you cannot expect them to be up to speed with all the different processes and nuances in pharmaceutical research and development, and then the product life cycle, so that a more robust methodology for training up people to be able to participate in this type of work was needed. And that was actually the idea behind the European Patients Academy for Therapeutic Innovation, which is abbreviated as EUPATI. So that was the idea behind setting up this entity. And that was also the idea which convinced also the European Commission to provide substantial funding in the first 7 years of this initiative to bolster this consortium that was established at the time in 2012 to start with patient education. And so the purpose is, and this is what we've been doing ever since in EUPATI, the purpose is to convey this knowledge that is needed for patients to become experts and to be actively and meaningfully engaged in research and development, to give them this knowledge, this toolbox of scientific skills, but also advocacy skills that allow them then to engage on longer term and also to be able to represent their patient community's interests. So that's basically what we've been doing. You're right, Dania, this is right, now already a foundation, so it's no longer a project associated with or attached to the European Patients Forum, but it has become an independent foundation, which now offers both training courses for patients, but also training courses for other stakeholders, including people working in the industry or in academia, so researchers, where you can study in shorter or longer courses together with your colleagues or alone about what patient engagement in practice means in your work. And of course, the flip side of that is what we've been doing for many years, is teaching patients how they can get engaged, and what are those various tools and elements of knowledge that they need in order to be able to work together with doctors, investigators, and industry people, including all sorts of areas of activity, from marketing through clinical and even preclinical research. So yeah, and it's been quite a ride, but a successful one actually.
Yes, and that way I think what I want to add is that not the only advantage of EUPATI is having this whole curriculum, but also that the trainers are also from different backgrounds. So you get training by experts that come either out of academics, but are patient experts themselves already, so have gone through the training and have hands-on experience of what it means then to be a patient expert, talking to either authorities or the industry. So that hands-on experience I think was also interesting. And being myself or having been myself one of the moderators in one of the last EUPATI trainings, I think interesting also for us to be able to say, okay, what it means on the industry side to talk to patients, experts, or to talk to community advisory boards. What does that bring? How does then the process go, etc. So I think it's important because it creates a higher level of transparency, and I think the transparency and the trust are the basic needs for really having successful expertise. It becomes an expertise that you know is going to bring something. You're not just talking to a wall. You are talking to a bunch of people that have their own priorities and emergencies and things they need to take into account. But I think when we both understand each other better, it is also more successful.
Yes, I mean that's very well said. I think that this is also what we see here is really a paradigm change, which of course takes time and it takes a lot of effort, but it's also tremendously interesting and very useful and beneficial because it ultimately produces better outcomes and better health outcomes for not just the patients but for the whole of society. So we strongly believe that by providing education to people, that contributes to their empowerment, and that empowerment then spills over just healthcare. So it's right. No longer limited to healthcare, but this type of empowerment then also encompasses the individual's existence in society, and that's also a major benefit. So we also try to train up our trainees, and so far almost 200 people have graduated from EUPATI, and another 500 individuals have been trained in our industry and academia training courses. So these we try to make sure that these people understand that their work doesn't necessarily stop with healthcare. So yes, they make a lot of meaningful input and contribution there, but it goes beyond that. Yes. That type of engagement.
Yeah. I think it's one of the elements also that we would like to see much more acknowledged, is that indeed those are all tools of collaboration that, of course, help one patient to improve the setting of his own treatment and disease. So it goes for his peers, but then it goes for better healthcare, as you said. Better healthcare means better real-world evidence, better health outcomes, and therefore a more sustainable healthcare. So towards every individual as a taxpayer, especially in Europe, this should completely make sense and should be something everybody should fight for. Again, there is a need for a bigger public awareness of this existence. So we are talking, of course, to people who are doing this hands-on, so they need EUPATI, and you are our best audience to spread that news. But I think we need it even in a broader setting. The public awareness on collaboration between patient experts and the industry and the health authorities is not known enough, or at least seen sometimes with too much suspicion. So EUPATI is an excellent tool to show that there is no need for suspicion, that it is really something that makes healthcare better.
Thank you.
And we didn't have any questions, so either we were extremely clear, or you're all very shy, or we were very boring, which I hope we were not. But if we don't get questions now, I think we will be kicked out of this Zoom sooner or later, and we will then go to the Q&A session.